Just imagine for a moment that you are God. You are the foundation of morality, of all that is good. You're also the origin of love. And you've got these people who you've created, and you love them desperately. But at the same time, you know that every single one of them has in some way done bad things, done terrible things, and they're suffering the consequences of their own actions. Now, you have a standard of right and wrong, and you are that standard. You are love, and you have love for these beings you've created who are suffering as consequences of their own actions. Their own actions condemn them. So what can you do? Well, you could just decide to let everybody off. Just say to everybody, it's okay, it doesn't matter. Let's just wipe the slate clean and forget about everything that you've done. Sounds great, until you consider that when one person commits a really bad act, it can hurt another person. It can kill another person. If someone steals from you and then the judge just says, don't worry about it, it's okay, that's not fair for you. And so if everybody's just let off from everything that they've ever done, then it's not fair on the people they did it to. It's not fair on the people who chose not to do that thing. If there's going to be any justice, then when people do things that are wrong, there has to be punishment. Someone has to be held to account. So do you just let everybody suffer the consequences of their actions? Well, if you love them, how can you possibly stand by and watch people suffer so badly, even if it's from a world that they've created? And let's face it, the world around us that we've created, it stinks. And we have to suffer the consequences of that. Or do we? Does God have another option? Well, how about He just removes everybody's free will? So now we can't choose to do wrong because we have no choice. Would love really do that? And by the way, if we have no ability to choose right from wrong, then is there right and wrong? Does it matter that we're choosing to do a right thing if we never had any choice of doing a bad thing? We must have free will. A loving God must give us that. Otherwise, He's not a loving God. And that means people must be free to do bad things if they choose to. But if they choose to, for there to be justice, there has to be punishment. How can God rescue us without violating free will and without violating some sense of justice? What's needed is someone who will take the blame and take the punishment so that there is still punishment, so that someone is getting the consequences of bad things. Because without consequences, there's no justice. Now, that's not fair for them, right? But what if they freely choose it? What if they freely choose, no matter what you've done, I'll take the blame. No matter what you've done, I'll take the punishment. Now, there is a condition. That person must be innocent. Think of it like this. Imagine you had detention. You've been sentenced to detention, and your friend says, I'll do that detention instead. You're supposed to stay after school till 6 o'clock. And they say, I will stay after school till 6 o'clock in your place. And the teacher says to them, you're already staying till 6 o'clock because you've got detention too. You can't do detention for two people at once. If someone's going to take your place, they have to not deserve to be there by their own actions. They have to be innocent. Only the innocent can take the place of the guilty. So who have you ever met who's completely innocent, who's never done anything wrong? I've never met anyone like that. I don't think anybody ever has. The only one who's blameless, the only one who's innocent, the only one who hasn't fallen short of God's law is God Himself. The only solution is if God Himself takes the punishment. If God Himself takes the consequences of your actions. The Bible is one long story of how someone did that for you. There is not one historian in the world that doubts that a guy called Jesus really existed. Not one. And in fact, the two most provable things about this guy is that he was crucified and then that people saw him walking around after he'd been put to death. Here's why that matters to you. He said his whole life that he was not only God, but he said many times before he died that he would be put to death to pay for every bad thing you've ever done or ever will do. If Jesus really did exist, if Jesus really did die and then come back, then Jesus really is God. And God really did decide that justice should still exist, right and wrong should still exist, but you should have an option where you don't have to live with the consequences of the things that you've done. Even though we do bad things, even though there is justice, there's a way out. All you have to do is choose it.